Welcome to the Love Spark podcast. We are your hosts, Tonya
and Stevi Maveros.
If you want to hear a Midwest millennial couple talk through real practice and exploration of relationship tools and resources,
and if you appreciate a bit of authentic and vulnerable commentary along the way,
then the Love Spark podcast is for you. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you are listening, as well as give us a 5-star rating and letting us know what you learned. It really helps out the show.
Also, don't forget to visit the website, milovespark.com, to check out upcoming events, workshops, and opportunities to ask us questions.
You can also follow us at Love Spark Dates on Instagram and Facebook.
All right, let's dive into this week's chapter of The 7 Principles of Making Marriage Work by Dr. John Gottman and Nan Silver. Welcome back to another fabulous week of the Love Spark podcast with your hosts, Stevi
and Tonya.
And we are diving into chapter 10 of the 7 Principles for Making Marriage Work. Again, you're welcome to go back to episode 1 where we start this book, but you can also just jump in with us right here. Today we're talking about coping with typical solvable problems.
Ooh, yes. We'll also let you know that there really isn't a lot of workbook activities to be done with this chapter. There are activities. There actually are more activities in the book that we didn't go through, but we feel like it's just a good conversation anyways, and we will talk about the activities we did do. And so, shall I kick us off with a reading of a passage?
Please do.
Okay.
My love.
So, when we talk about coping with typical solvable problems, we are talking about work stress, in-laws, money, sex, housework, internet-fueled distractions, and a new baby. Because these are the most typical areas of marital conflict. Many people readily agree with the notion that good marriages take quote-unquote work. But what specifically does this mean? Every marriage is faced with certain emotional tasks that spouses need to accomplish together for the marriage to grow and deepen. These missions come down to attaining a rich understanding between partners that will allow both of them to feel safe and secure in the relationship. When these tasks are not accomplished, the marriage doesn't feel like a port in the storm of life. It just feels like another storm. And so basically the book then goes on to say, when there's conflict in one of these 7 common areas, it's usually because you have different ideas about the tasks and their importance. And so that is 100% correct.
For sure.
Yes.
So the solvable problems that they tackle, they start with such an on-point solvable problem for this day and age that we live in.
Yes, it is. Also, I do like with this chapter that, outside of that, it just dives right in to the problems and it just gets into it, which is really cool. So what is this solvable problem that is perfect for this day and age?
Unplugging from distraction.
Yes.
So they don't list the problem as a problem in this chapter. They list it as a task, which I actually really appreciate because it does keep that focus very much on you're a team working to solve an issue together. So the way that they word that is that the task is maintaining connection and intimacy amid the distractions of the internet age. So I just really love how they very intentionally worded that, because it's easy to say, the problem, one partner is spending all day on Instagram liking cat videos or whatever.
Yeah.
right? Or one partner is gaming all day long or
Yeah.
whatever it may be. But to state that the task is to maintain connection and intimacy, it completely flips the conversation, right? The
Yeah. It shifts
perspective.
the focus
Mhm.
from problem to solution.
Exactly, which I
Yeah.
really love.
So in this section it says in a recent study of young professional couples, researchers in Los Angeles calculated after monitoring them 24/7 that the average amount of time they actually engaged in conversation was 35 minutes a week.
Ugh.
What's more, much of their conversation was really what I would call errand talk,
Mm,
such as who was going to take out the garbage or walk the kids to the school bus.
man.
35 minutes a week.
Terrible.
That's crazy.
That is crazy
And
to really think about.
out of that, it's not even anything connective.
Yeah, you spend more time in connective talk with your coworkers a week,
That's actually true,
just by the coffee pot.
right? That's crazy.
I spend probably about that much time just saying hello to people as we awkwardly pass each other near the coffee pot because our break room's set up weird.
Can I also say that um I feel like this is also timely because this is actually something we have
Mm,
actually discussed within the last few weeks and kind of got a little
yeah.
bit of a better understanding,
Mm-hmm.
which we'll get into the activity, but it is really good timing for that as well. But one other thing I want to say is that I did see an Instagram reel from Dr. Gottman
Mm,
where he basically kind of looked at if your partner is sending you Instagram messages of videos and things like that, should you consider this a bid for attention? And Dr. Gottman says it is
not attention, connection.
a bid for connection. Thank you. And Dr. Gottman says that it is. And so that really, when you look at it, your person was viewing this thing to a point in which it made them think of you and they wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that, it's important to keep in mind that, like, even if someone is quote unquote mindlessly scrolling, they're not sending you every single video. They're specifically sending you the ones that make them think of you,
Hmm.
right? So it absolutely is a bid, but it is also something that you and I have discussed, as you stated
Ooh,
recently.
since there isn't a lot of activities, do you kind of want to dive into this before we do the
Sure.
activity? Do you want to dive into where we were at with this discussion?
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. So for the two of us, I will say that it was annoying my soul that Stevie would be scrolling, especially here at home. Sometimes, like, we would just be sitting in the library together and she would be scrolling on her phone. And so I would be annoyed by it. Or one of the other things that I think would that was happening is that you were sending me a lot of Instagrams and I wasn't watching them, and it wasn't because I didn't want to watch them. It was because I was actually taking a break from social media because my
Mm-hmm.
feed had gotten very negative. Fucking everything is negative on social media, I swear to God. But once you get your algorithms right, man, it's really good. It's really good. But so I was kind of just avoiding it altogether because I was also in a space where I wanted to get my mind right.
Mm.
And so I had started to get annoyed that you were perpetually scrolling and like we really weren't having good conversation or connection because of that. And so eventually we sat down and had a conversation and did a little bit of a deeper dive into really what was happening.
Yeah.
And so what were you really doing?
When I was sending you videos.
Just like at home, like when you're scrolling at home, what are you doing?
Oh, scrolling at home, it allows me. the opportunity to kind of let the focuses from the day shift to the back of my mind.
One of the other things that you had said, though, was that while we are in the library together, oftentimes, I mean, now that we created an office, slightly different, but sometimes I would sit out here and be doing work or schoolwork or business
Hmm.
and or even reading, and I tend to
Mm,
be very segmented in my conversation. So like I will
yes.
see something and I'll go, "Oh my god, this is so cool. She has to know this." And then it like comes out of nowhere. And so you are also utilizing this as a space of not wanting to get too involved or invested in something because you knew that I
Hmm.
would ultimately interrupt it.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't like to wait for information to be imparted, and the um, segmented way that you communicate when you're working on something simultaneously or when you're just bouncing ideas, I think is the most common
Mhm.
way that this happens. If I don't find something to occupy me in the space in between
Mhm.
the engaged interaction, then I find that I get very triggered and very upset and feeling like my time is being controlled in some way, and like it's a whole thing.
Yeah.
It's an old trauma that crops up for me that I have learned that I to not feel angry and then misplace that anger and direct it at you. I have to have something to occupy me in
Mhm.
in between spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, I will say also that part of my annoyance is kind of like, oh my God, I've been seeing what social media does to your brain. Stop. Honestly, like it's terrible for you. Don't do it.
And I'm over here like, please let me not understand how horrible everything is by rotting some of my brain away.
Oh God, please don't. So, okay. So that is our little story about social media. And I'm actually really curious to see where we land on this quiz because
Mm,
and this is why I wanted to do
talk about it
our
first.
specific situation first because I think that in having this conversation with you, it has allowed me to understand a little bit more about your social media usage and then kind of
Mm,
really put things into perspective. So, are you ready? And before we get to that, though, I do want to just let you know that in the workbook, does talk about that the chapter covers common areas and that each of the topics listed on the chart on the next page is significantly expanded upon in the book. So just know that like if you are reading the book, you're going to get so much more than what you get out of this workbook activity. With that being said,
yes.
there's also on page 66, it's a chart of typical solvable problems, and it actually lists all of the problems that this chapter covers. So from unplugging from distractions, the problem with porn, stress and more stress, relations with in-laws, money, housework, becoming parents, and sex is actually what they talk about within this chapter. And so I
Yes.
did do some highlights as I was reading where we could kind of touch on some of these subjects as well.
For sure.
So, are you ready for our quiz?
Yes.
Quiz electronic distractions.
Mhm.
Let's address one common solvable topic: high tech distractions. To get a sense of whether this is an issue in your relationship and requires some attention, take this quiz. So, question number one: I worry that my partner spends too much time attending to email or other online tasks. And so, your options are there's four options: rarely, at times, usually, or often. What did you select for one?
Rarely.
I selected often. Often.
Rude. Okay.
Question two: often, when I want to talk to my partner, he or she is busy texting or on the web.
Usually.
At times.
Mm.
Okay. Number three, are you marking my answers?
No, I'm just very I just am putting a dot by that by the often one because I find that interesting.
Oh, okay. Okay, sorry. Because of digital distractions, I find it hard to feel like I come first to my partner
At times,
at times. I feel that my partner wants to zone out far too much with TV or digital media
rarely,
often. It hurts me when I come into a room and my partner hardly notices me because he or she is immersed in social media.
rarely,
Rarely. I feel that because of electronic media, my partner isn't really fully available to me.
usually,
Rarely. Digital media seem to burn up whatever time there is for the two of us.
rarely,
Rarely. My partner is too distracted by all of the electronic options and social media to be able to be fully present with me at
rarely,
times.
rarely. Sorry, I said it really quiet. I kind of grumbled it out.
Yeah. Uh, Attention to social media or other such distractions is a real issue between us. Rarely.
Rarely,
Sometimes I'd like to come first in my partner's attention rather than tech.
at
Rarely.
times.
Ooh. Okay.
It's really funny because you seem to have a volume. For you, it seems to be like volume issue.
Can you expand on that?
Like your answers of often seemed like they were on volume questions, like my partner spends too much time, or uh they
Yeah, I
um
mean, too much is actually within each of those questions where I did answer often.
yeah, so my point is that it's obviously like a volume thing for you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And all of mine are specifically about your attention,
Mm-hmm.
because it's not that you spend so much time on your electronics. It's that when you are on your electronics, that's the priority of your attention.
I mean, that's a fact because the attention is going to something that needs to be prioritized.
Right. But then when you try to interact with me, it feels very disingenuous because you're not trying to interact with me. You're doing what you're doing. So either do
Mm,
what you're doing or talk to
mm,
me, but don't pretend like you have time or attention to give to me when you don't.
mm,
Like, to me, that I think that's part of why it irritates me so much when you're on your computer and talking to me and bouncing ideas off me, because it doesn't feel like you really care that I'm there at all,
mm,
because you're
mm-hmm,
working on what you're working on.
mm-hmm,
It feels like you're utilizing me as a resource or a tool in those moments,
mm,
which is
mm-hmm,
not an engaged conversation in which I feel valued or cared for in any way.
mm.
So the timing, I think, is like, it depends. I don't always get annoyed about it, but when I do get annoyed about it, it's usually because of the timing of it.
You know what's so fascinating is that is partially true. So like I receive that. That's partially true. There are
Mm-hmm.
times that I do use you as a resource because you're fabulous and I want your thoughts and opinions.
Sure.
But then there are other times that I share things with you that really don't need a full conversation, but I share them with you because I think they're cool and interesting and I think that
Mm,
you would like them.
mm,
And in some ways that also brings you into what I'm doing. So you kind of like have an idea of what it is that I'm doing. And it's
mm,
not just I'm doing coursework. It's I'm doing coursework, but hey, here's this really cool thing that I learned and I want you to hear about it because it kind of gives you an idea of what I'm studying, right? And so I think
mm.
in that regard, it's like almost like your social media as a distraction of the in between for
Yeah.
me when I share things with you
Mhm.
and on that side, it's really just to share it with you because I think you would really enjoy it. and
Sure.
it doesn't need to be a full conversation. But you are right. There are times that I do just bounce things off of you as like a resource. But
Hmm.
then also, thirdly, as an only child, there are just times that I'm straight up talking to myself and answering my own questions while you're here, but I look at you when I do it. So like I totally receive what you're saying.
So, like, two out of the three of those
Yeah.
instances,
Yeah.
those all three of those things look the same for
Okay.
the most part.
Yeah, that's
Like, there
fair.
are small differentiations, and I can sometimes tell the difference, but I can't
Mhm.
always tell the difference. And
Mhm.
so sometimes that is where we get frustrated with each other because I interpret it in one of those ways and you mean it in a different one of those ways. And then we're just not,
Yeah.
we're not connecting at all because we're not looking at the same message.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So I think it's
Oh.
interesting though the electronic distractions quiz
Mhm.
that like the distractions are very specific to each other.
Yeah, and that was only okay, that
10.
was only 10 questions. So
Yeah.
did you total yours up?
I didn't write it down. I just told I mean, yes, I did, but I totaled it in my head.
So can you total it in your head again and write it down? Okay, what's your
Sorry.
total?
6.
Oh. Okay.
Are you saying that 'cause yours is way higher?
Not way higher. Mine was 9. But to be fair, I did pick a couple of the I only picked 2 of the often and few of the at times. So the scoring range for this is 0 to 10 means being too plugged in is not a serious issue for the two of you. So basically, like it could be an issue from time to time, but you're navigating it well. 11 to 20, your score suggests that your relationship might benefit from some extra problem solving in the area. And 21 to 30, your scores suggest that excessive attention to social media and related distractions may be interfering with your relationship.
Fair. I think that that's fair points.
And one of the things that I do like about this book, and I don't actually think that I highlighted it, but I do like that he also makes reference to himself and his
Mm,
relationship because even though they are therapists and he wrote the book, like he's also still human. They're both still human. And
yeah,
so that with that acknowledgement, you're not going to do everything perfectly all of the time. The goal
true.
is to be, oh my God, it's like if you're a person who's like, I guess, trying to be more healthy, that what they say is like the 80-20 rule.
Mm,
Work out 80% of the time, eat healthy 80% of the time, and then the 20 other percent is like, you know,
fair.
being human. And so
Yeah,
I kind of feel like that, right? Like if you can like establish, I would personally say make it more
sure.
like a 85% to 90% versus 80, but
Listen,
you
you
know,
can't be at 100% 100% of the time, right?
exactly.
Sometimes you're sick, sometimes you're in a mood,
Mhm.
sometimes, the weather shifts and the
Yeah.
wind blows the wrong way and you're just off, you know?
Truth.
I think 80/20 is very reasonable.
Okay, fine.
And I would say that we're probably about at that as far as giving each other grace versus getting annoyed with each other
Very true.
about silly things
Very
that like
true.
very easily could just give each other grace about.
Yeah. Ultimately, too, I think uh it really ebbs and flows.
Oh yeah,
you know
absolutely.
so it's like I like to say life is a journey, your finances are a journey.
Mhm.
And so really what that means is it's going to go up and down, it's going to be good, it's going to be bad, it's not going to stay or remain the same or stagnant. And so you have to give yourself a lot of grace, but we do need to recognize if there are some major consistent problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And we need to be willing to solve problems together. I mean, that's what this whole chapter is about, right?
Exactly.
Figuring out what the goal is and how to get there together.
Spot on. With that being
Thank you.
said, would you like to read from the typical solvable problems chart about the problem with porn?
All right. So, one of the other solvable problems, the problem with porn.
Mm, do tell.
The task, so again, not the problem really, the task is to maintain a sense of trust and security in the relationship. Discuss and agree.
Okay.
Sorry.
So,
Solution.
okay, so that's the task. So let me share a few tidbits out of the book about this task.
Yeah. Some examples.
There are an estimated 500 million pages of sexually explicit porn on the internet, and they cater to every conceivable turn on. There was a report by the American Association for Marriage and Family Therapy estimates that 20 and 33% of internet users in the United States go online for sexual purposes, either to view pornographic images or to engage in some sort of sexual interaction. Most of these people are married men.
Shocking.
Okay, so in the chapter, I'm not going to get into all of it, but basically they list some of the problems that can ensue if there is too much porn and we're not on the same page as a
Mm-hmm.
couple.
Absolutely.
Less frequent sex,
Mm-hmm.
less sexual communication,
Mm-hmm.
less mutually satisfying sex,
Mm-hmm.
and here's this is a tidbit. So the reason that there's less mutually satisfying sex is in part this conditioning comes courtesy of oxytocin and dopamine, the bonding and pleasure hormones that the body releases during orgasm. And so because that is happening within your body, you're basically connecting to yourself
Mm.
and to the fantasy and not to your partner. And
Yeah.
then there's an increased risk of betrayal.
Mm. Because it can be just a stepping stone. I think for people who are prone to utilizing infidelity is as a way to escape
Mhm.
in any kind of form or fashion, porn most certainly can be the first step in walking down that road.
Yeah. So now that we know what the task at hand is to maintain a sense of trust and security in the relationship, what is the solution?
Well, the solution that the Gottmans give in the workbook is discuss and create an explicit agreement. Explicit agreement.
I feel like that pun was intended, to be honest.
Maybe. Without explicit agreement, the use of porn is really a form of relationship betrayal and can lead to less frequent sex, less sexual communication, less mutually satisfying sex, and an increased risk of betrayal.
So the next task is stress and more stress.
Mm,
Make your relationship a place of peace.
yeah.
And so, what this really comes down to is when you are stressed and you're bringing stress home from work and it's just kind of feeding into the relationship, there is a piece in here that says scheduling formal griping sessions can prevent the spillover of everyday stresses into your marriage. And then here's one thing that I think is important. There's no doubt that work stress has become an increasing factor in marital dissatisfaction. Folks, I really, really want you to hear this. Today's couples work an average of 1,000 hours more each year than people did 30 years ago. That means there is less time for talking, relaxing, eating, and even sleeping.
Truth. Truth. So, what is the solution, sweetness?
Acknowledge at the end of a long, stressful day, you may need time to yourselves to decompress before interacting with each other.
Hmm.
Build time to unwind in your daily schedule. Once you're both feeling relatively composed, it's time to come together and talk about each other's day.
Very solid. I mean, that's definitely something that you and I have talked about, especially in this last year where we've had quite a emotionally tumultuous time this last 12 to 18 months or so. Things are finally settling now, but there was definitely a period in there where the coming home was not a pleasant time for either of us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it, coming home because you were working from home most of the time, but
It got to the point where I was like dreading you coming home. I was like,
yeah.
you need to go to the gym or something before
And
coming into the house.
and I was getting to the point where I was angry at the fact that the only way to like avoid feeling stressed walking in the door was to not walk in the door. And that was making me more annoyed and irritable and touchy. We were both so, I think, overwhelmed with stress that, like, if I was breathing wrong when I walked in the door, you were like, great, she's in a mood. And then I would see that face that said she's in a mood. And I'd be like, great, she's already mad at me and I haven't even stepped in the door. And it was not a great time.
Mm-mm.
But I will say, even throughout that period of time, I think that we were very good at recognizing that we were just kind of emotionally overwhelmed. And even if we had that kind of nasty initial interaction, we were good about backing it up, taking space, and then coming back together when we were both feeling a little more reasonable.
Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. All right. Do you want to hit us with relationships with in laws?
Mm. Oh, yes, please do let me take this one. Relationships with in laws create a sense of we-ness.
Ooh.
Mm.
So this one is I this was actually one of my favorite sections to read, to be honest.
Mm.
But really what it comes down to is there's a passage in here that says, although such conflicts usually surface quite early in a marriage, in-law difficulties can be triggered or revived at many other times, such as when children are born or
Mm.
past major milestones in their development, and again as the parents age and become increasingly dependent on the couple.
Right.
One of the things that I will tell you, and I have seen this video on Instagram from Dr. Gottman, and I'm like, yes, preach, sir. So what is the solution?
Side with your partner to increase feelings of solidarity.
So let us just be clear. Dr. Gottman says you always side with your partner.
Yeah.
And a lot of times this actually happens, and they do point this out in the book, that this happens mostly between women, so the wives and the mother-in-laws, and the husband is caught in the middle. And
Mm-hmm.
because he wants them to just get along and he doesn't want to choose sides, he then feels like he's now a mediator constantly. And it just makes his wife more angry and more resentful. And then it makes his mother angry and hurt. And so the truth of the matter is, you should be siding with your partner.
Yeah, you don't enter into a partnership with a person to make them beholden to your parents' rules. You enter into a partnership with somebody to build a life together, and the life that you build together is going to exist after your parents are gone. You
Yeah.
know, that's kind of the point,
Thank
really.
you. Thank
And
you.
so even if you don't necessarily agree with your partner 100%, it's important to side with them in front of your parents,
Hmm.
even if it requires you to have more conversation between the two of you, later on in private. But when it comes to how you stand in front of those outside of your relationship, especially when it is your family and your parents, you have to establish that your person is your person.
Hmm.
Your mom isn't your person anymore.
I think that actually think I wrote that in my vows when we got married. I think I said
Mm.
something like, I promise to be I promise to be on your side in public always and disagree with you
Mm-hmm.
behind closed doors or something like that. And that's
Yeah.
really what it comes down to, right? You have to create a united front because if we're honest about it, there are people everywhere. The world
Hmm.
is a beautiful yet somehow shitty place
Hmm.
from time to time. And if people can drive a wedge, they will do it. If your mother sees that she can get her way and drive a wedge, you could probably end up divorced. And so, or not in the relationship. And
Hmm.
so, to have that united front, you don't leave the space for the wedge,
Yeah.
but you have that conversation behind closed doors. And then you create a solution together instead
Yeah.
of trying to win the argument.
Absolutely. I will say that it seems important to bring up this specific issue given the social climate currently,
Mm-hmm.
and that is that sometimes finding your person will heal you in ways that makes the damage your family inflicts on you visible in a way it's never been before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it is really important to recognize that if you have a partner who is challenging your family systems and the rules and the way things have always been, or the way that people have always treated you, or specific behaviors within family dynamics, I think that it's really, really important to keep in mind that you chose this person, you trust this person,
Mm-hmm.
and this person has a more objective perspective than anyone else in the situation because they are an outsider.
Mm-hmm.
Them being an outsider is not a disadvantage to their perspective of what's going on. And I think that there's, people who don't realize maybe that their families are quite as toxic as they are get a little defensive in that,
Yeah.
well, you don't understand because you're not a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, no, they don't understand because they're not a part of it and they can see that it's not good for you,
Yeah.
right? And I think that, there seems to be quite a surge in people going no contact with their parents and people walking away from familial relationships that have not been serving them. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really important to recognize that that sense of we-ness,
Mm-hmm.
if you allow it, can be an incredibly healing and transformative force in your life for the better. And sometimes that can lead to some tension in your family, and sometimes it can lead to a lot of healing.
Mm. Beautifully stated, my love.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Is it ironic that I get to cover money, money, money? Say it.
Money, money, money.
No,
What?
it's there's four. It goes money, money, money. So it goes money, 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 money. Actually, there's five. It's fine. I get to cover money, money, money. So here is the task. Balance the freedom and empowerment money represents with the security and trust it also symbolizes. So, really, what this comes down to is that.
Spending versus saving.
Stop it.
What?
Okay. What
That's
this.
that's the balance, the freedom. Balance spending versus saving.
Okay.
Responsible decisions versus fun decisions.
Fair. But really, what it comes down to
Hmm.
is that you are two people who, so like, actually, this kind of, I feel like, rolls within the in-law situation too when you think about it. You
Sure.
are two
Yeah.
people who came from completely different worlds, completely different families, values, belief systems, and that ultimately helps to create your personal belief system about money. Now, yes, you have your outliers who are like, I will never be that way and whatever. But a vast majority of what you believe about money is stuff that you may have learned intentionally and unintentionally within your household. And so it's important to recognize that when you come into this space, this is one of the moments where you have to be very conscientious that you are on a team,
Mm,
because when we start challenging our beliefs and our values, that can make people very defensive. It can
yeah,
make you want to grip more tightly to those values and
absolutely.
not hear what your partner's saying and not taking in their perspective as well. So when you do this, it is very, very important you recognize your patterns of flooding, what that means for you. It's all
Hmm.
things we've covered, but recognize you are coming in as two different people. And lastly, make sure you don't end up with a budget that forces martyrdom on either of you. This will
Yes.
only build resentment. And so when you come in with your non negotiables, make sure that they are things that you are willing to be firm about.
Yes.
And so, with
Yes.
that said, the solution is some clear headed budgeting is called for.
Yeah. I mean, I think the book makes a good point about taking some of the emotion out of it by just writing it all out together,
Mm-hmm.
gathering all of the information together. I think the book actually calls for a year-long self-audit.
They
So,
1 month, 6 months, or a year, either way.
oh, they tell you to pick. I I've always done a 1 month self-audit when I do self-auditing, but I think it's a very good point that like having to collect that information to see what you've actually
Mm-hmm.
spent and then categorizing those things in like what's actually important to you, that having that kind of um you know very analytically oriented task
Mm-hmm.
does help take some of the emotional fire out of it,
Yeah.
right?
I will say too, one of the things that I really appreciate, if you have not, okay, so I sing this man's praises all the time. If you have not read I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi, or Ramit Sethi, that's how we say it. It is a phenomenal book. And the reason that I bring this up is because what he talks about in his book is called money dials.
Mm,
And really, it's the thing that you value so much. This is where you want your money to be spent when you are planning through your budget, or what he calls a conscious spending plan.
mm,
So when I think about that, my money dials tend to be a little bit more expensive than your money dials.
mhm,
My money dials are any kind of learning, and that includes buying books, online courses, taking classes in person, anything. I love learning. But the other money dial that I have is I do buy some very bougie hair care products and makeup. And I have learned quality is very important for me and my skin type and my hair type. And so those are some of my money dials. And so when you do this budgeting, I think it's also important. It'll help show you kind of maybe what your money dials are if you don't know what they are.
mm.
And if you're willing to think about it, maybe you want to enter into this process understanding what those are.
Right, right, absolutely. You have to understand what your personal preferences and priorities are to be able to come together at this and really be honest. Because you can't avoid resentment if you're not really being honest with your feelings about where you want your money to be going.
True. So, my love, do you want to take us into housework?
Yes, housework. All right, the task: create a sense of fairness and teamwork. I really like how this chapter talks about, I mean, they do get pretty gendered in this because it is a statistically significant stereotype.
That's true. I will tell you, in the psychology of sex class that I'm taking right now, we actually just kind of covered this about gender stereotypes and the way that we gender people and also gender behaviors.
Hmm.
And it is so multifaceted, right?
Yeah.
It comes into play with truly your biology.
Yep.
It comes into play with your culture,
Mm-hmm.
so your society, how you've been brought up. It comes into play with your understanding and what's been modeled. So, like, there are a lot of reasons that there are the gender dynamics that we have. And from a science standpoint, this is very accurate. Kind of like when we talked about flooding, men tend to get flooded more easily than women.
Right.
And if you look at the evolution and psychology perspective of it, there's a lot of reasons, right? But
Mm-hmm.
this does bring a lot of science into it, and it is very gendered, which is okay.
Yeah.
When you know, you know.
Absolutely. So I just think it's important not to discount it, as we've said in episodes past,
Hmm.
that wherever you feel that you fall on the gender spectrum, align yourself with that when we're talking male and female in context of this book, because obviously we are a lesbian couple.
Hmm.
Neither one of us is the man of the
Oh,
relationship.
fucking thank you.
However, I do tend to lean towards a more masculine presentation. And I think that I also tend to lean towards more masculine, stereotypical thought processes and tendencies
And behaviors.
and behaviors,
And if
certainly.
you are identifying as non-gendered, then I would say what you identify with as the action. If you read
Right.
this and you go, "Oh shit, that's me," well, that's probably you. It doesn't matter if you're
Yes, very
she,
true.
he, or them or
Yes.
they. Just
And we've all
take
been in
it.
a household where it's been flipped on its head from
Thank
what we
you.
grew up with. So,
So ultimately, this section basically says men tend to be the ones who don't really see housework as work. They tend to be the ones who don't do a lot of extra housework. And they tend to want to be applauded when they do the housework because they've helped. I know that is also sarcastic. It's a lived experience for me. So there's a little something there. There's a bias. But at the end of the day, men don't often realize how deeply women care about keeping their homes in order. And when a husband doesn't do his agreed upon share of the housework, the wife usually feels disrespected and unsupported.
yeah.
Period. So, what is the solution?
Sure. The solution is to talk over household tasks and divide responsibilities so it feels fair and equitable. And I love that the book actually does list, and I think categorize even,
It does.
between, automotive, as in who fills the gas tanks, who does the maintenance, who does the auto insurance, childcare, who does the school runs, who makes the food, who does the all the things, right? So I do love how they really break down those categories,
That
because
is a good, I do like that.
yeah, because I mean, you talk about chores, but when you don't write it out, very much like budgeting, it's very easy to miss things.
That's very, very true.
So share what your takeaways from this section were, my love.
Yes. Uh, my takeaways from that section.
Yeah.
Oh, they're not positive because so there is a passage in here that says women find a man's willingness to do housework extremely erotic. When the husband does his share to maintain the home, both he and his wife report having more satisfying sex life than in marriages where the wife believes her husband is not doing his share. I would like for this to be known. I am not a doctor, but I am going to throw out here a theory and maybe a correction. I wouldn't necessarily say that it's erotic. What I would say is when a woman feels supported and appreciated, she feels more seen. If she feels more appreciated and seen, then she is probably more likely to be open to intimacy. But also, if she has more freaking time because she's not doing all the other things, she can feel better about herself and maybe take that long shower, maybe feel more relaxed in her own body and in her own home, and
Absolutely.
then want to share that with her spouse. So I'm not saying that he's wrong, but I'm saying that he's wrong.
I would agree that it's not necessarily that it's attractive when your partner does housework, but it is much easier to be turned on by your partner when you don't look around and see a giant to-do list. It is much easier to be turned on by your partner when you're not annoyed at them for leaving their clothes all over the floor.
I will say, coming from past experience, but also talking to other women, what tends to happen is they then feel like they have another child to clean up after.
Yeah,
And so
that's
when
not sexy
you,
at all.
yeah, so you, what is that? Infant, is it infantize? Infant, thank
Infantilize.
you. So when that happens, you're not attracted to your partner because it's just another person to take care of and you're not in it together.
Yeah,
Again, teamwork.
right, right. It's hard to want to have sex with someone that you feel like you aren't with,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yeah.
So the next one is, I would say, I love the part of this section. I
Okay.
love part of this
You
section.
find it. So the next hotspot is called becoming parents. The task, expand your sense of we-ness to include your children.
I have got to say, I really appreciate this perspective.
Is it the beginning?
It is the very beginning of this
Oh,
section.
yes, I love this. I do
Yes.
love it.
So there is a quote in the very beginning of the becoming parents section. It says, quote, "A child is a grenade. When you have a baby, you set off an explosion in your marriage. And when the dust settles, your marriage is different from what it was. Not better, necessarily, not worse, necessarily, but different." So wrote Nora Ephron in Heartburn.
Oh, when I read this book the first time, I like wanted to highlight this in 10 colors
Ugh,
because I think that a lot of times, especially in like most societies, but especially here, we create such a big deal about bringing a baby home and how amazing it is and it's magical and you're becoming a parent and all these things. What we fail to be openly honest about is it is a fucking grenade for your relationship. The way that you have operated as two individuals has now, it is forever changed. It will
absolutely.
never be that way again. And if you don't take the appropriate steps to prepare for that, it can be very, very damaging.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, one of the statistic points is that the year after the first baby arrives, 67% of wives experience a precipitous plummet in their marital satisfaction.
Mm,
And for the husband, the dissatisfaction usually kicks in later as a reaction to the wife's unhappiness.
mm,
But
yes.
for the 33% who just seem to sail through the transition to motherhood unscathed, it is because they have been able to incorporate a we-ness into the entire process
Mm,
that includes the mother, the baby, and the husband. Or the father, sorry.
yes.
So the solution, focus on your marital friendship. Don't exclude dad from baby care. Let dad be baby's playmate. Carve out time for the two of you. Be sensitive to dad's needs and give mom a break. And
Yeah.
also, when we're talking about don't exclude dad from baby care, don't freaking micromanage either.
Yeah.
He will figure it out.
You have to let him learn in the same way that you learn, you know?
But also, when I think about babies, for the most part, the size of the hole they come out of, it's real small compared to their bodies. I think they'll be okay if dads accidentally put them in not warm enough bathwater.
Yeah.
Don't drop the baby. That's a bad thing. But like,
Yeah,
yeah,
they're bouncy.
that's kind of true.
Just kidding.
I mean, you have seen it firsthand.
Yeah, I
Did
have
you actually
seen it.
see that, or did you just hear about it
What?
when your dad dropped Trace?
Oh, no, I didn't see it. I
Oh.
just heard about it. But
But here he is, graduated college and married.
I
He's
heard,
fine. Last one.
yes. Oh, I did want to make one comment though.
Ooh, do share.
Um, Circling back to the gendering or the gender differences in parents, statistically significant stereotype that women are more nurturing, and when it comes to childcare, dads tend to be more playful. And they
Mm-hmm.
do make a point to say, like, babies smile as early as 3 weeks old. And from that point, they just learn more and more. You
Mm-hmm.
can be playmates with very, very small infants almost immediately if you just work with them at their developmental level,
Yeah, at their
playing with
pace.
them, trying to make them smile, trying to make them laugh, or even, they talk about how there is some jealousy that dads have about breastfeeding. I really like the solution of letting dad be the official burper, because what dad doesn't want to teach their kid to burp?
Right.
Right? Like, what a dad thing to do. But I just
For
think in
more,
general, I like how they talked about being more intentional about including dad
yeah,
early.
for a more tender moment, dad could be the person who takes baby to mom to be breastfed
Yes.
or rubbing the baby's head while feeding.
Yes, also that. Also that.
So, you know.
Yeah. All right. So, for the last typical solvable problem that is explicitly covered in this chapter, we're going to talk about sex.
Let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk
About
about you
you
and
and me.
me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about
And hold
sex.
sex. Dork.
Please keep that.
Love you.
Please keep it.
Love you. So the task: enhance emotional and physical intimacy and make it a priority.
Mm,
And yeah, that's kind of the crux of it, right? Make it a priority. Make it a priority in the way that you talk about things. Make it a priority in the fact that you want to increase the depth of understanding you have of your partner and their vulnerabilities and their fears, and why they might not be comfortable with the lights on, or why they don't like this, or why they do love that.
mm.
Be curious, be open, be intentional, and make it important to you.
Um, can I just say that this section does follow suit with the other sections where it does really divide it among gender lines.
Mm.
Um, but when we are talking about sex, take the same approach as money. You are coming from two different spaces, two
Yeah,
different values, beliefs, and all those things. And so really when you are coming into this space, you are entering to learn, not convince.
exactly. Exactly. You are complete worlds unto yourselves. Learn each other's worlds.
And the other thing I want to share, especially with this section because it is so gender divided, so they go through talking about couples and the significance and whatever. And one thing that is 100% apparent is that it does not matter if they're in a good place or a bad place. Men are usually the ones who want to have sex the most. So, for example, in a study of couples who had a toddler at home, we found that husbands wanted intercourse on average 6 times more often. This was true whether both parents rated their sex life as fabulous or virtually non existent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I bring this up because in this section, it also tells you how to kind of create rituals around initiation, but also how to decline sex as well.
Yeah,
And the big thing here, when we are talking about these lines of gender, is that if a woman says no, men traditionally get, they feel rejected, and sometimes they can get very pouty about it. They can
get
take that no
irritable.
in such a ungraceful way that it makes the woman then feel guilty or shameful for saying no. And so I think it's really important, especially when you read through this, to recognize dudes, fellas, bros, that the section actually explicitly states that if you can reward your partner's no by whatever means, maybe that's being like, oh yeah, no worries, and then thank you for telling me that, and then going into cuddle instead, that actually sounds counterproductive, but because that woman feels more safe and secure, it actually does do the opposite and can lead to her wanting to have sex more often.
Well, it brings me back to very early in our relationship when I was telling you how important your ability to say no to me was. And I think even then, even at that time, we hadn't read these books and we
Hmm.
hadn't explored as much terminology. But even at that time, I had told you that knowing that you are comfortable and confident in saying no to me with no guilt means that I can absolutely trust your yes.
Ugh, baby,
That your yes
fucking
means
love that.
yes.
I love that. I love that so much. I love that to this day because it's such a good perspective to take, right? It is such a good perspective to take.
I mean, it is I mean, here's the thing, right? I feel very, very strongly that I do not want to have sex with a person who is not enthusiastic about having sex with me.
True.
If you even maybe kind of don't wanna, then I'm not interested. I don't want to take part in that. And I'm very, very adamant on that. I want to
Mhm.
be in the act of making love with somebody who wants to be in the act with me,
Mhm.
right? And so for me, it's very important to really trust your yes. And you cannot really trust a yes if you can't also allow a no,
Mhm.
right? If you can't hear a no and accept a no, then like, does the yes even mean anything at that point?
Oof. Can I also mention, okay, so if you haven't noticed, I said all of those things with a lot of feeling because this actually was my own personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
And if you, I actually am a guest on Sex Stories podcast, and I talk about this, that my ex-husband and I had very much walked these gender lines, and this was very much our dynamic, that if I said no, he got upset, he pouted, and that made me feel bad. There had been times that he would say, any woman would be happy to be with me because of X, Y, and Z. And so that doesn't make that doesn't make me want to have sex, right? So I
Right.
felt guilty. I felt shameful. And there would be
Mm-hmm.
times where I would take a shower before sex and cry in the shower because I didn't want to, but I felt that I had to.
Yeah.
And that comes from a whole lot of other things. But my point to this is that even when we first got together,
Yeah.
it was very difficult for me to say no, to literally utter the words, I'm not feeling it, I'm not interested, just not today. Like I could not say it. It was very difficult.
Yeah. I
And
remember it took a few months before you were really comfortable with it, with saying
yeah,
no.
yeah, and even then it's been a process.
Yeah.
But this is also to circle back to your earlier point that finding a person can help you heal wounds that you didn't know you had or that you knew you had, but you didn't know how deep they went.
Yeah.
And so when you take those things into consideration, it's very, very important that you recognize your relationship is about a partnership and about building something meaningful and deep. And that means being able to take a no, but because you can trust the no,
Graciously take a no.
graciously take a no, if not reward it. Because if
Mm-hmm.
you can trust the no, you can trust the yes.
Yes. And I mean, that's really what it is, right? Like, rewarding the no makes the yes better,
Oh, yes, it does.
right? And I mean, they say right in the book, statistically, you're more likely to get a yes if you consistently reward the no.
Yep.
And I think specifically in the case of men and women, women have to be pretty trusting of their partner, of a person to give their body over. It's just a very vulnerable thing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you can't trust your partner to appreciate your no, not just accept it, but appreciate your no and appreciate your autonomy to not be in the place of wanting to have sex. If you can't trust your partner to appreciate that, how can you trust them to appreciate the yes?
Yeah.
Right? So yeah,
So, with that end, there was a little mini quiz in the back, quality of sex, romance, and passion in the relationship. For each item, check the one box below that applies to your relationship right now.
right now, right now.
Yes.
All right, let's do it.
Well, I kind of associated this with like the last month. So, question one. So, here's your two options: our relationship is romantic and passionate, or our relationship is becoming passionless. That is, the fire is going out. Okay, just say top or bottom.
Top.
Top. Okay. With a caveat, though, I would say that we were probably in an ebb state where it felt like maybe the romance and passion was going out. But again, that was all circumstantial because of all of the life's moments, life be life and all that. And so it is something that will ebb and flow as
Life.
life does.
Yeah,
So, but yes, we're both a top.
on that question.
Okay.
Question two. We do touch each other tenderly a fair amount. We rarely touch each other these days. Top.
Top. Yeah, we do.
Yeah, I do.
That's rude.
That pout was unnecessary.
That's rude. I'm working on things.
Our
Number three.
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Number three. Our sex life is fine. There are definite problems in this area. Top.
Top. Okay, number four. We have made sex and romance a priority in this relationship. We have not made sex and romance a priority in this relationship. Top.
Top.
We have.
Hmm.
We talked about it early on too.
Yes, we did. Um, Overall, we can and do talk easily and comfortably about our sexual needs. Overall, we do not talk or we do not talk comfortably about our sexual needs. Top.
Top. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think we have a lot of romance and passion. We are affectionate. We have sex. I think the most disagreement we have is really just frequency, but I think that's been more life and the weight of it
Hmm.
than anything else. We've always made sure to be to vocalize that it is a priority and to take steps to address it when it feels like it's getting pushed to the side.
Can I just share? We even got to a space that, and it's a whole other conversation, but we did get to a space where we weren't sure really how often we were having sex.
Yeah,
Sometimes it seemed like it was a lot, other times it seemed like it wasn't. And so we just actually started tracking it on a calendar,
yeah,
because when life gets busy, when you are in it, your perception could be skewed. Like you could
yeah,
be having more sex, but maybe it's not as connective as it could be, and so it doesn't feel like you're having as much sex as you are. Or maybe you are really not having a lot of sex at all and it feels like you are,
right,
right? So to take the feeling out of it and just make it factual to track it, I
right.
think is helpful.
Yeah, it is helpful, especially if before you start tracking it, you determine what is a lot or not enough
That that as well.
together.
Hmm.
So I think that about wraps up chapter 10, our solvable problems.
Yes. So problems can be solvable. There
Absolutely.
are solutions to help and guide you.
Hmm.
The biggest takeaway for today is remember that you are two individuals coming from two different backgrounds, and your goal and job is to learn more and be curious about your partner and to face challenges as a team.
Absolutely.
Not to win, not to convince, but to
win together.
Win together.
Absolutely.
We will see you next time as we cover chapter 11, which is going to be Principle 6, Overcoming Gridlock.
Indeed.
Before we sign off, here is an upcoming opportunity from LoveSpark. Join us at Lansing Pride on June 27th from 1 to 9 p.m., and we'll have a special release just for Pride.
Once again, we want to thank all of our fabulous listeners for joining us this week on the LoveSpark podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.
Along with subscribing, please remember to visit us at milovespark.com, follow us at LoveSpark Dates on Instagram and Facebook, and join us again next week for another fabulous episode.
Indeed.